From the art of Burning Man to the history of go-go to the phenomenon of Black Panther, it's Artico Rewound. Now we've chosen our favorite stories from 2018 and wrapped them up in this special edition. We'll see you in February with a brand new episode. Until then, I'm Anquinette Crosby. Happy New Year, and until next time, always remember to follow your art. In 1986, Larry Harvey and Jerry James made a wooden figure, hauled it down to a beach in San Francisco, and set it on fire. And the Burning Man movement begins. Now, decades later, tens of thousands of people gather once a year in Nevada's Black Rock Desert to create a temporary city. It's a communal event dedicated to art, self-expression, and self-reliance.
The art at Burning Man has a lot of specific character to it. One of the things that makes it so unique is it's really made for the desert. So most artists are working in the gallery system, and they're responding to the gallery system. At Burning Man, any artist who makes work is allowed to show it, and the artwork simply has to be strong enough to withstand the conditions there. This is sort of a fully immersive installation. I wanted to sort of break a few boundaries of the way that we do things at Smithsonian and whatnot. We've brought large-scale installations, some of them commissioned specifically for us. We've brought even small-scale things, bits of jewelry and costume, all together to sort of bring to the American public what this mysterious event that happens out in the desert is really all about. It has a sort of root in some of the local community and anarchist Dadaist groups sort of going out, doing happenings. So there's a little bit of a performance art background to it. And then maybe a little bit more recently, in the last 15 years or so, the art has been growing in scale, and people are bringing these massive installations that only last a week. There's that ephemerality to them. So I think it is a movement because it's all about artists who are creating something for a reason other than money. It's intended to just blow the minds of all the other people in the neighborhood, make the other participants proud. Like this incredible temple by David Best, that are created to really involve people in the work, get people's participation, get them to come up and really explore the pieces for themselves, feel like everyone can be an artist. The work ranges from people who have MFAs and are professional artists to people who are programmers or architects or any other profession, garbage collectors or whoever else it is, and they bring whatever skills they bring to the playa, and it creates an incredible supportive culture full of makers. Burning Man itself is something like 7 square miles in the desert. So when people go out to view some of these sculptures, when they're there, there's this incredible thing that happens when you see something far off in the distance and then you ride your bike to it and you have this relationship with that sculpture before you even arrive at it.
Go-go, DC's homegrown music. Ever wonder how it all got started? Since Chuck Brown, its founder, passed, how's it holding up? Well, check out this next story because we have some of the answers.
So go-go has one founder who everybody recognizes, that's Chuck Brown. He was sort of experimenting with percussion, and he said that he was at this club at the corner of 4th and Rhode Island called the Maverick Room, and when they got this beat, everybody sort of exploded on the dance floor, started jumping on tables.
Go-go, you don't have congos or some kind of rhythmic instrument, it's really not go-go. You know what I mean? You gotta have that beat, you gotta have that rhythm.
The idea with go-go was that they were competing with disco music, and so instead of stopping between songs, they just kept going. Between the percussion and all the layers of horns and huge band sound, that's really what characterizes go-go.
If I go see Patti LaBelle, who's my favorite, she's not gonna say my name. She's not gonna make me feel good like that. With go-go, Sugar Bear is gonna know me. James Funk is gonna know me, and he's gonna talk to me while the show is going on. It's that interaction that we have with the crowd that makes this whole thing just a special, special experience.
To sort of understand DC in the 1970s, very similar and analogous to what was going on in New York City in the Bronx, where hip hop was born around the same time. Many of the housing markets were opened up to the black middle class. So you have white flight, black flight, you have urban blight, you have real vacuum for a lot of positive activity going on. And go-go is one of these things that sort of filled these abandoned spaces in the center city. It has traveled occasionally. There have been certain hits that have moved, and certain national, international artists that have experimented with go-go rhythms and sort of played in the go-go space. But go-go is definitely a locally indigenous-rooted cultural movement. Chuck Brown passing was a huge blow to go-go. Many of us, he was so young and vigorous. He was still gigging right up until right when he got sick right at the end. He was a man well into his 60s and early 70s. He'd have his shirt off. He'd be out there on the mall, looking ripped and strong, and many of us just thought he would live forever. But when he did pass away, it sort of became a reminder that the music is much bigger than one man. It actually is a huge community. And so when he talked about making this music so that he could eat and so that his family could eat and the members of his band could eat, that's really a legacy that he passed on. And there are many musicians that are continuing to eat on go-go music. People felt like in Chuck's honor, we really should allow the music that he created to continue and to not allow it to be marginalized and stigmatized, and just remember all the contributions that the music made to the city when it went through some of its hardest times that it's ever gone through. So a lot of the top go-go bands, Rare Essence is always going to be one of the main ones that you'll hear spoken about, and they were a band that was really mentored by Chuck Brown. Trouble Funk is still around, although they're not performing as much on the local scene, and so they actually have more of a national or international audience. Junkyard Band, you might see them performing. There's also a younger crop of go-go artists, a new generation of go-go, which is the bounce beat sound, and that's been around for about 10 years, but that's definitely associated with the youngest of the go-go fans. It's a much more aggressive sound, fast, younger sound. TCB, they're considered like the leaders of that bounce beat movement. One other band that I'll mention is Black Alley, and to me they sort of represent some of the difficulties that younger bands have in the city. They don't call themselves a go-go band. They have very good reasons to do that. It's easier to get a gig if you don't say that you're a go-go. What's more important to me is that they're carrying on the tradition.
I see go-go continuing to, grow just like anything else. You have a younger crowd, they have their own sound. The bands that have already established themselves, they're getting better and better and continue to have their own following.
One of my favorite corners in DC is the corner of 7th and U Street, or Georgia Avenue and U Street, where there's this business called Central Communications. They also sell go-go tapes and CDs, and they have 2 huge speakers that they have, and they'll be blasting go-go every day of the week. And it's also a corner that's being very aggressively gentrified. People who've been here a while and know, what the music is, they might stop. They might, I've seen people stop, go into a 2-step, dancing, The new people who are here, they have no idea what's going on. They're like, what is that stuff? It's sort of a crossroads for all these new people, like the new and the old, but a wonderful reminder of the culture of the Chocolate City. I'm really happy to see people are still go-going, because to me it just represents like the resilience and the strength of Black culture in this city, and it's not something that could be killed or that can be destroyed. It survives. Over the
past 7 years, Marcella Kriebel has turned her two great passions, food and art, into a lucrative career. Marcella's collection of watercolors and illustrated cookbooks reflect her indisputable talent. Sprinkle in her years of travel, journaling, and cooking in Latin America, and you have a recipe for success.
I love to learn about culture through the lens of food, so all of my visual art is inspired by experiences cooking with people in their homes. And so often I will cook with folks, and I will record that through a sketchbook journal kind of format, where I utilize my visual art, so illustration, using an ink pen and watercolor to kind of narrate these experiences. I think of food as a bridge into culture, and so asking how people prepare the dishes that they do, where they buy their ingredients, who taught them the dishes that they love, questions like that will definitely, get the conversation going. As someone with an art practice who keeps a sketchbook all the time, I'm always recording my life experiences visually, and so it was kind of a natural progression. Having these distinct new experiences and the desire to record them was very much a part of who I am to begin with. Most often, people are very excited to share these different dishes that perhaps their grandmother taught them, or is their special kind of family distinctive recipe. The first book, Mi Comida Latina, first came to fruition thanks to when I lost my job, my real job, in the beginning of 2012. So I took that year of unemployment and worked full-time on a passion project that I had on the back burner for quite a while, which was to create a recipe book full of all of these illustrations and recipes from experience traveling throughout Latin America. I sold that book by myself as a self-published project for about a year, and then it got picked up by a publisher, Burgess Lee Press. So Comida Cubana, a Cuban culinary journey, came through thanks to them. So that project is very similar in style. It's full of all these different illustrations and compositions on each page, first-person accounts of all these different experiences cooking, but much more in-depth. People flip through the cookbooks and often they say, "My gosh, how beautiful," and these feel as if they're flipping through a diary. Watercolor is a really transportable medium. It allows me to take just a small little set of paints and illuminate a black and white drawing extremely easily without a lot of setup. Tonight we're doing an event called Watercolor and Cocktails, and this is actually a collaboration between myself and Buffalo and Bergen, which is owned by Gina Chersavani. So she's a mixologist here in Union Market, Washington, D.C. And she sends me a recipe. I do a black and white illustration of that recipe, and then folks get to come and illuminate it in watercolor. And during that process, I teach some watercolor skills.
Take your brush, wet it down, and add that water to the page.
I love the idea of wet and wet, which is wetting the paper first and then applying the pigment after, because it allows the pigment and that color to kind of move around on the page all by itself. And I find that a really fun effect when it dries. To find out more, certainly visit my website, marcellakriebel.com. Instagram is also a really fun place to check out all of what's new in my art process. So that is just at Marcella Kriebel.
It seems the whole world has gone crazy for the movie Black Panther, me included. It's broken one box office record after another, earning more than $1 billion. Well, we couldn't let the moment pass without getting in on some of that superhero action. First, meet Jesse J. Holland, a comic book lover from way back. Jesse got the chance of a lifetime. Marvel Comics asked him to write the companion novel to the Black Panther blockbuster, and rest assured, he did not turn them down.
Actually, the very first thing I did is I called my wife. And the reason why I called my wife is because a year before, my second book had come out, The Invisibles, the untold story of African American slaves in the White House. And that book took me 7 years to write. So I promised my wife when I finished The Invisibles that I wasn't going to write anything else for a while. I was going to be completely home focused. But then Marvel called. And I said, I called my wife and said, honey, I know I promised that I was not going to write anything else for 2 more years, but it's Marvel. And she was like, I understand, go for it. They were looking for 2 things. They were looking for someone who could write history, because the novel is the origin story. And they were also looking for someone who could write on deadline. So in my real life, I'm a journalist. And if there's one thing journalists know, is deadlines. I didn't have time to be excited. I had to get to work.
Panic first.
There was a slight amount of panic. And I mean, and also the Black Panther is such an iconic character that you don't want to mess it up. The Black Panther was created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee in 1966. And the original 1966 origin, that origin stayed the exact same until 2005, when Marvel hired Reginald Hudlin as the writer of the Black Panther. So Reginald Hudlin did the first update of that 1966 origin. What Marvel was looking for was an update of the 2005 origin. So I had a framework to follow. So there are original characters, there's some new angles. So if you read the comic book, you would still find out new things in the book, because I took that story and expanded it and included new locations. I felt if the King of Wakanda was ever going to come to America, there are 2 places that he would definitely go. The Smithsonian African Art Museum, because I opened the book with him opening up the Wakandan exhibit in the Smithsonian African Art Museum, and then he would go right across the mall to the Smithsonian Black History and Culture Museum. So I figured that would be the logical place for the story to start.
So what things, because we want people to go out and buy the book,
right.
So what things are in the book that maybe the movie left out, and why should people pick up the book and read it?
Whether you've seen the movie or not, the great thing about the novel is that you'll get some background on some of the characters you're going to see in the movie. So if you really want to know why the Dora Mahali exist, they mention it briefly in the movie, but I go into their entire existence, how they were created. You get to know more about who Shuri is and why she is so smart. They talk about Ramonda, his mother, the Angela Bassett character, but she has a history all of her own outside of what you saw in the movie.
Give us a tidbit.
For example, Ramonda's not T'Challa's mother. That's his stepmother.
That's huge.
That's his
That's
stepmother.
huge.
Exactly, exactly. So if you
didn't bury the lead there.
The stories are not limited to just the screen. You can go back and read the comic book. You can read what Ta-Nehisi Coates is doing in the current comic book. You can pick up the novel and you'll see the same characters. They might be slightly different interpretations, but the character work for this comic book is so strong that you'll recognize the characters at every step.
Did you even think?
The book is sold out pretty much everywhere. I've actually gone through my entire personal stash of this novel. I don't have any books left. My parents didn't get a copy of it. They're actually working on not an ebook, but a audio presentation where they're hiring actors to play the parts and say the dialogue that's in the book. And so I got a chance to go out and play one of the characters that I created for the audio production.
Are there things that you wish that the movie hadn't changed that you had written in the book?
Well, I did have this great scene in the book where T'Challa goes to the ancestral lands and meets not only his father, but he meets the Panther God, which they didn't do in the movie. So when they started that scene, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, he got my scene on screen, he got my scene on screen. Oh man, they didn't do it. But I mean, I've seen the movie now 3 times, and I'm going to see it for a 4th. The story that Ryan Coogler crafted on screen, the cinematography, the character acting, it's all fabulous.
Talking about T'Challa and Killmonger not being able to coexist, in your mind, is it something that we can look at what's going on today?
You can't help but draw parallels between T'Challa and Eric Killmonger and the relationship between African Americans and Africans. There are a lot of African Americans who sympathize with Eric Killmonger, who #Killmonger was right. But there are also a lot of Africans who sympathize with T'Challa as well. And so this movie is a great starting point for a discussion of the 400-year relationship between Africa and the United States. And that's one of the great things about really, really good characters. They transcend the printed page, they transcend the silver screen, and we can apply them to our own lives and say, hey, how can we make things better?
Besides outstanding ticket sales, Black Panther's influence has created a fashion frenzy. The costumes combine traditional, tech, and superb tailoring to these tribal threads. The film celebrates ethnic dress from throughout Africa. Grace Ofari is the owner of True Face by Grace. As she will attest, the film has been a boon for her business.
Before the Black Panther movie, actually got a lot of business. People anticipated, like people go into the premiere. We sell True Face designs. So 80% of our products are designed by us, and then the 20 is created from all over the world, mostly from African countries. So we have accessories, we have purses, we have bracelets, necklaces, and the apparel we just add into it. So we have capes and bibs made out of the African cloth, the Ankara print. We've had a lot of people come to us to buy similar pieces that were in the Black Panther. We've had people, like especially the choker I'm wearing is called the Ndimbele choker. It's from South Africa. It's not my design, it's a cultural piece from South Africa that has been there. It's used for weddings, but because a similar piece was in the Black Panther, it got us a lot of business because our pieces were similar to what was shown in there, just show-stopping, unique pieces, statement pieces that were just amazing. I mean, the African print, everything African print, African design is now off the chain. African print high-low cape. So it's a cape that is very versatile, so it can be worn in different ways. It can be made into a blazer. It can be made as a cover-up, as a bathing suit. You could wear it anywhere you want. So you can see I'm wearing it to the side, but you could also wear it to the front. You could tie it to the back. We have them made with buttons, so people can choose how, what they want to order. This is made out of strips of Ankara fabric. Ankara is the African print cloth. It's 100% cotton. It's very vibrant. It comes in different prints and colors. So this is made out of strips of Ankara fabric. So these are strips and cut into pieces and all pieced together. Everybody is contacting us to purchase, to find out if pieces can be made for them. So it's not just Black people, it's everybody who really loved the movie. People from all nationalities, people that went to the movie that admired the culture and the ethnicity and the fashion. One of my favorite pieces or design in the movie was Okoye's outfit, the general, her warrior outfit, I think was really, really, really beautiful. Our pieces are for the bold woman who likes to make a statement, who like to be seen, show-stopping pieces that are unique and authentic, straight from Africa. And in fact, we have some models here who are wearing some of our beautiful pieces.
This program was produced by WHUT, Howard University Television, and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.